Imagine standing in 2026, looking back at the version of you who decided right here, right now, to stop waiting and start moving. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a miracle. It was 3 tiny steps that shifted everything. Because the moment you realize your future doesn't change from one giant decision, but from small actions repeated with power, you finally take control of your life. Today is the line in the sand. Today is the moment you say, I'm done playing small. I'm ready to build something unstoppable. And those 3 tiny steps, they will become the turning point of your entire life. When you think about transforming your life by 2026, most people imagine some dramatic shift, a huge breakthrough, a life-changing opportunity, or that lightning bolt moment where everything suddenly falls into place. But the truth is, success rarely arrives with fireworks. It begins quietly, almost unnoticed, through the smallest, simplest actions that are repeated day after day. That's where real power lives. The tiny steps, the steps so small most people overlook them, dismiss them, or underestimate them. But those who understand the value of consistency, those are the ones who rise. Because the mind loves to complicate things. It tells you if it's not big, it won't matter. It pushes you to chase the dramatic instead of mastering the simple. But the moment you realize that your entire life can shift through changes that take less than 5 minutes a day, everything opens up. Your mind stops working against you and starts working for you. And that's when momentum begins to build. Think about this. One tiny action doesn't look like much on its own. Reading 2 pages of a book won't change your life today. Writing one idea in a journal won't make you successful tonight. Saving $5 won't make you wealthy tomorrow. But stack those actions, 2 pages every day, 1 idea every night, $5 consistently, and suddenly in 2 years by 2026, you're not even recognizable compared to who you were. That tiny decision becomes a force, a quiet, powerful shift that grows beneath the surface until it explodes into results. And here's the beauty: tiny steps don't overwhelm you. You don't need motivation to take a micro action. You don't need huge courage or perfect circumstances. You just need to show up every day, even for a moment. Because when the action is small, the resistance is small. And when the resistance is small, consistency becomes easy. And when consistency becomes easy, success becomes inevitable. If you look back at the biggest transformations in your life, they probably didn't begin with grand decisions. They started with something simple: a thought, a choice, a shift. Maybe it was one conversation that shaped your path. One day you finally said, I'm done living like this. One moment where you decided to try something new. Those weren't massive leaps. They were tiny beginnings that changed everything. But the reason most people never reach their potential is because they're addicted to the idea of big. They think their life will shift when they finally get that perfect job, that ideal opportunity, that magical moment of motivation. But life doesn't change when circumstances change. Life changes when habits change. And habits are built through small actions repeated with commitment, even when they don't look like they matter. Imagine planting a seed. You don't expect a tree in a week. You don't dig it up every day to check the roots. You water it, you nurture it, you protect it, and you trust the process. Those tiny acts create something massive over time. Your life works the same way. Your goals work the same way. Your future works the same way. The seed is small, but the outcomes are not. And as you begin taking those micro steps, something powerful happens psychologically. Your brain starts to register each tiny action as a win. And the brain loves winning. Every time you complete a small action, your mind produces just enough confidence, just enough certainty, just enough momentum to take the next step. You begin stacking wins, small ones, and suddenly you're no longer the person who struggles to stay consistent. You become the person who shows up automatically. And when you show up automatically, discipline becomes your default. And once discipline is locked in, success stops being a dream and becomes a trajectory. By 2026, the people who achieve massive success will not be the ones who waited for motivation. They will not be the ones who chased big dramatic changes. They will be the ones who embraced the small, the simple, the consistent, the ones who said, I may not be able to do everything today, but I can do something today. And they did it again and again. If you want massive success in 2026, don't overwhelm yourself with giant leaps. Just pick your tiny steps and repeat them consistently, relentlessly, quietly. Let them compound. Let them build your momentum. Let them create the version of you that achieves the results you've been dreaming about. Because in the end, it's not the size of the step that changes your life. It's the consistency of the step. And everything changes the moment you decide to begin. Even if you begin small, if you truly want those tiny steps to turn into massive success by 2026, you've got to begin with one simple but powerful shift: clarity. Because without clarity, even the smallest step feels confusing, heavy, and directionless. And when you don't know exactly where you're going, you hesitate, you overthink, you second guess yourself, you start something, stop it, start again, and wonder why nothing is changing. But the moment you decide to get crystal clear on what you want, everything aligns, the actions become obvious, the energy becomes focused, the path becomes simple. Clarity is not about having your entire life figured out. It's about knowing what matters most right now and defining a destination that pulls you forward. The mind needs a target. Without a target, fires its energy in every direction. But when you give it a clear picture, something specific, something meaningful, something that lights you up, it becomes a magnet. You don't have to push yourself anymore. The vision starts pulling you. And here's the truth most people never hear: clarity doesn't show up on its own. You create it. You carve it out. You choose it. Most people wait for the perfect moment thinking clarity will fall from the sky. They tell themselves, once I feel ready, once I get more information, once things calm down, then I'll know what my next move is. But it's the other way around. Clarity doesn't come after you start moving. Clarity comes because you start deciding. When you sit down with yourself and say, what do I really want my life to look like by 2026? Your brain begins to search for answers. Maybe it's financial freedom. Maybe it's emotional peace. Maybe it's a career shift, a healthier body, a renewed relationship with yourself, or a life where you feel alive again. Whatever it is, you must define it, not loosely, not vaguely, but specifically enough that you can measure it, feel it, and recognize it when it happens. Think about how different the next few years would look if you took even 10 minutes today to write a simple, clear vision for 2026. A vision that excites you. A vision that scares you just a bit. A vision you can close your eyes and actually see. When you paint that picture in your mind and put it into words, you're giving yourself something to fight for, something to wake up for, something to commit to even on the days you don't feel like it. And once your vision is clear, the overwhelm disappears. Suddenly, instead of thinking, I have so much to fix, you begin thinking, I know exactly where I'm going. That shift changes everything. Your decisions become sharper. Your priorities become obvious. You start recognizing what aligns with your goal and what distracts you from it. You stop tolerating things that drain you. You start choosing things that build you. Clarity is like cleaning the windshield of your life. The road was always there, you just couldn't see it clearly. And when you can see clearly, you drive with more confidence, more speed, more intention. You stop drifting. And part of creating that clarity is breaking your vision down into simple, reachable pieces, not 100 giant goals, not a massive to-do list, just a few core targets. Imagine telling yourself by 2026, these 3 outcomes will define my year. That alone removes 90% of the noise. It gives your mind permission to stop chasing everything and finally commit to something. Then take it one step deeper. Ask yourself, what are the tiny daily or weekly steps that support those outcomes? Now you're giving your mind a roadmap. You're turning a vision into action. And that's when clarity evolves into certainty. Certainty evolves into motivation, and motivation evolves into momentum. And something beautiful happens when you're clear, your energy becomes different. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. Life opens up in ways you never expected because clarity improves your decisions, and better decisions create better outcomes. Suddenly you're not wandering. You're building. You're not reacting. You're initiating. You're not hoping, you're directing. Clarity also eliminates fear. Not because the fear goes away, but because the fear no longer gets to lead. When you know where you're headed, fear becomes nothing more than background noise. It loses its power to paralyze you. You start trusting your direction more than you trust your doubts. And maybe the most important part of clarity is this: it gives meaning to your tiny steps. Because when you know your why, even the smallest action feels important. Even the smallest step feels connected to a bigger purpose. You stop questioning whether it's worth it. You stop underestimating your progress. You start feeling the momentum even before you see the results because you know you're aligning with the future you've chosen. By the time you reach 2026, your life won't transform because you made one big decision. It will transform because you allowed one clear vision to guide thousands of tiny steps. That's the power of clarity. It makes the small steps unstoppable. If you're going to create a clear vision for 2026, then the next step is protecting the energy that actually allows you to pursue that vision. And this is where most people lose the game. Not because they're not smart enough, not capable enough, not motivated enough, but because their attention is scattered across 1,000 things that don't matter. Distraction is the silent thief of success. It doesn't destroy your goals in one big blow. It steals them from you in tiny moments, tiny interruptions, tiny choices that feel harmless in the moment, but accumulate over time. And if your tiny steps are the fuel for your success, then distraction is the leak in the tank. You got to treat your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Every dream, every breakthrough, every outcome you want by 2026 depends on your ability to direct your attention toward what matters most and eliminate the noise that keeps pulling you off track. Most people never reach their goals, not because the goals are too big, but because their focus is too small, fragile, scattered, easily hijacked by the world's demands. We live in a time where everything is competing for your attention: notifications, messages, updates, news, endless scrolling, small fires that grab your energy even when they don't deserve it. And here's the trap: distractions don't always look like distractions. Sometimes they look like responsibilities. Sometimes they look like urgency. Sometimes they look like opportunities. And if you don't have clear boundaries around your focus, you end up saying yes to everything except the things that actually move your life forward. But when you decide to focus, really focus, you begin to reclaim your power. You start taking back the hours, the days, the weeks that have been slipping through your fingers without you even realizing it. Focus is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. It's about choosing depth over business, purpose over noise, action over reactivity. And the moment you begin treating focus like a discipline instead of an accident, you unlock a different level of productivity. You stop waiting for the perfect environment, the perfect mood, the perfect timing. You create the environment. You create the timing. You command your energy instead of letting your energy be commanded by everything around you. Think about how different your life would feel if even 1 hour of your day was fully devoted to your goals, with no distractions, no interruptions, no noise, just you, Your vision in action, 1 hour of depth is worth more than 10 hours of scattered effort. Because when you're fully present, your creativity sharpens, your decisions become clearer, your confidence grows, and your progress accelerates. But focus doesn't happen automatically. You build it. You train and you protect it. Start simple. Turn off notifications during your work blocks. Put your phone in another room. Create a daily focus window where nothing gets in. No messages, no calls, no browsing, no wandering energy. This doesn't have to be hours. It can be 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Just long enough to build momentum. Because the moment you get in a flow, even a tiny window becomes powerful. And here's something most people don't realize: elimination is just as important as addition. You don't need a new strategy if you're drowning in distractions. You don't need a new planner if your time is being stolen by things that don't matter. You need to remove what's draining you, what's slowing you, what's diluting your focus. Because when you remove the noise, your actions become amplified. And once you lock in your focus, something incredible happens. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop breaking promises to your goals. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop letting your mind wander to things that don't serve your mission. You begin to feel powerful again because you're directing your life instead of reacting to it. With focus comes alignment. With alignment comes momentum. And with momentum comes results that feel effortless. Not because they were easy, but because you were consistent, intentional, and disciplined with your attention. When you eliminate distractions and give yourself the gift of focused action every single day, even if it's just in small doses, you start compounding progress at a speed you've never experienced. The small steps become smoother. The vision becomes clearer. The energy becomes stronger. And by the time you reach 2026, you won't just have achieved your goals. You'll have become the type of person who does not lose focus, who does not get pulled off track, who does not allow the world to dictate your direction. You become undeniable. And it all starts with deciding that your focus is worth protecting. Once you've built clarity around where you're going and you've protected your focus like it's oxygen, the next step is stepping into action, real action. Not the kind where you hype yourself up for a day and then disappear. Not the kind where you wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect confidence. I mean, the kind of action that begins before you feel ready, before you know how it will all unfold, before you see the results. Because most people never achieve what they want by 2026, not because they didn't dream big enough, because they never took that first imperfect step. And even more importantly, they never stuck around long enough to see those steps turn into progress. Action is where everything becomes real. You can have the best vision in the world. You can eliminate every distraction. You can promise yourself a new life, but nothing shifts until you move. Until you step, until you take the tiny actions that feel insignificant at first, but become the foundation of everything you're building. And here's the truth. No one ever feels completely ready when they start. People don't achieve success because they feel fearless. They achieve success because they take action even when fear is present. They move before certainty, and certainty follows their movement. The moment you take that first step, your mind comes alive. Something inside you wakes up, a sense of power, of ownership, of momentum. You start realizing that you're not waiting for life to change anymore. You're initiating the change. You're no longer the passenger, you're the driver. And even if the step is tiny, even if it's clumsy, even if it's imperfect, it counts. It matters, it builds. Because action is the antidote to doubt. Action is the antidote to fear. Action is the antidote to feeling stuck. But you also have to understand something just as important. Action is not a straight line. You don't take one step and suddenly everything falls into place. You take a step, you learn. You take another step, you adjust. You take another step, you grow. That's the real process. Most people quit not because they lack talent, but because the moment things become messy or uncertain, they assume they're failing. But you're not failing. You're refining. You're gathering data. You're learning what works and what doesn't. And that adjustment phase is where champions are made. Think of any major success story. It wasn't a perfect journey. It was a series of actions, corrections, missteps, breakthroughs, and pivots. And every single pivot was guided by action, not by sitting still and thinking about what could happen. Movement reveals answers that thinking never will. You gain clarity by doing. You gain direction by trying. You gain confidence by showing up again and again. Even when it feels slow, even when progress is invisible, even when the results aren't showing up yet. And the beauty of tiny action is that it removes the pressure. You don't need to move mountains today. You don't need to transform your life overnight. You just need to do something small, something aligned, something you can repeat tomorrow and the next day and the next, because tiny actions build consistency and consistency builds mastery. You can't fail if you keep adjusting. You can't lose if you keep moving. You can't be stopped if you stay committed, no matter how small the steps are. But you have to stay persistent. Persistence is where the transformation happens. Persistence is where identity shifts. Persistence is where you start becoming the version of yourself who achieves what you're aiming for by 2026. Most people give up after the first obstacle, the first delay, the first setback. But those obstacles aren't the universe telling you to quit. They're the universe asking, how badly do you really want this? And if your answer is, more than this challenge can stop me, then you keep going. You keep stepping. You keep refining. And when you commit to taking action and adjusting as you go, something powerful happens inside you. You become resilient. Resilient to discouragement. Resilient to opinions. Resilient to the old patterns that once controlled you. Your identity shifts from someone who tries to someone who executes, from someone who hopes to someone who builds. And that shift is everything. By 2026, your success won't come from one massive action. It will come from thousands of small intentional steps. Steps you took even when you were tired. Steps you took even when the results were slow. Steps you took even when it felt uncomfortable. Every step is a deposit into your future. Every adjustment is progress. Every moment of persistence is proof that you are becoming unstoppable, because nothing changes until you take action, and everything changes once you do. As you take those small steps and keep adjusting your path, there's something deeply important that most people overlook, something that can shift your entire emotional state, your confidence, your momentum. It's the psychology of small wins. Because no matter how much clarity you have, no matter how much you protect your focus or push yourself into action, if you don't recognize your progress, you'll always feel like you're behind. You'll always feel like you're not doing enough. And nothing kills momentum faster than the feeling that your effort isn't leading anywhere. Human beings are wired to respond to progress, not perfection, not huge breakthroughs. Progress. Even the smallest evidence that you're moving forward can completely transform how you feel about yourself. It changes your energy, your drive, your state of mind. But most people skip this step. They ignore the small wins because they're waiting for the big ones. They wait for the massive results, the promotion, the transformation, the financial leap, before they allow themselves to feel proud or excited or confident. But here's the truth. If you only celebrate the big wins, you'll barely ever feel alive, because those big moments don't come often. They take time. They take layering. They take years of tiny steps. It's the small wins, the daily victories that keep you going, that keep you committed, that make the journey feel meaningful. They are the fuel that keeps you moving toward 2026 with power instead of exhaustion. When you acknowledge a small win, completing a task, showing up when you didn't want to, staying focused for your dedicated time, choosing discipline over comfort, you're sending a message to your brain. This matters. I'm progressing. I'm winning. And that message triggers momentum. It reinforces identity. It builds belief. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who grows, someone who moves forward no matter what. That internal shift is what shapes your future. Because success is emotional before it's visible. You don't wait to feel successful until you achieve success. You feel successful because you're proving to yourself through small wins that you're moving in the right direction. And that feeling drives everything. It makes you more consistent. It makes you more resilient. It makes you more willing to take risks, to stretch, to keep going even when obstacles show up. The problem is we live in a world obsessed with extremes. People only post the finished product, the highlight moment, the big reveal. You rarely see the tiny steps those people took, the early mornings, the small improvements, the habits built brick by brick. And because you don't see those, you start believing you're behind when you're not. You believe your progress is too slow when it's actually perfect. You compare your daily grind to someone else's milestone, and then you wonder why you feel discouraged. That's why small wins matter. They bring your attention back to your journey. They ground you in reality, your reality. They shift your focus from what's missing to what's building, because every great outcome is built from invisible progress long before it becomes visible success. When you start acknowledging your small wins daily, you rewire your mindset. Instead of ending your day thinking, I didn't do enough, you ended thinking, I moved forward today, I honored my vision, I kept my promise to myself. That shift alone can change the entire trajectory of your life. Try this. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what's one win I had today? Just one. Maybe you stayed consistent. Maybe you avoided a distraction. Maybe you made a healthier choice. Maybe you got back up after slipping. Maybe you took a step that scared you. When you capture that win, even if it's tiny, you reinforce the belief that you are progressing. And that belief compounds just like your actions do. And if you want to take it deeper, keep a win journal. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just write down your daily victory. Over time, that journal becomes proof. Proof that you're growing, proof that you're evolving, proof that you're committed. And on the days where you feel stuck, where the results feel slow, where doubt starts creeping in, you open that journal and remind yourself, I'm not who I was. I've been building this. I'm moving forward. And that reminder can be the difference between giving up and pushing through. Small wins are not small. They are the emotional engine behind every transformation. They build confidence. They sustain motivation. They strengthen identity. And by the time you reach 2026, it won't just be the big achievements that define your success. It will be all the tiny wins that brought you to them, one small victory at a time. Because when you celebrate the small wins, you accelerate the big ones. When you commit to small steps, when you build clarity, when you protect your focus, when you take action and adjust, and when you celebrate your small wins, something begins to shift inside you. A deeper transformation starts happening, a transformation in your identity, in the way you think, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you approach each day. Because at the end of the day, success isn't just about strategy. It's not just about habits. It's not just about goals. It's about who you become. And the person you become is shaped by two core forces, your consistency and your belief. Consistency is what builds the path. Belief is what carries you down it. And when those two work together, you become unstoppable. People often talk about mindset, but mindset isn't something you just think your way into. It's something you build through what you repeatedly do. Every time you follow through on a tiny action, even when you don't feel like it, you're building a mindset of strength Every time you choose focus over distraction, you're building a mindset of discipline. Every time you acknowledge a small win, you're building a mindset of self-trust. And the accumulation of those moments creates a mindset that is strong enough to hold your vision all the way to 2026. But real belief doesn't show up in one moment. It grows. It grows from the evidence you create through small, consistent actions. It grows from proving to yourself that you can do hard things, that you can stay focused, that you can evolve. It grows from seeing yourself move forward, even in small ways. Because belief is not a feeling, belief is a pattern. And once that belief locks in, everything changes. You stop approaching your goals with doubt. You stop acting like someone who's trying, and you start acting like someone who's committed. You stop hoping you'll succeed, and you start knowing you will. And that knowing, that unshakable certainty, is what carries people through the tough seasons, the slow seasons, the moments where most people give up because they don't see results yet. But you will. You'll see them because you won't be depending on motivation. You'll be depending on identity. Motivation fades. Identity stays. If you identify yourself as someone who shows up every day, who takes small steps, who grows, who adjusts, who celebrates progress, then nothing can pull you back into your old patterns. The old version of you can't survive inside a new identity. And that's what 2026 is really about. It's not just about the achievements you'll have by then. It's about the person you will have become along the way. The mindset you'll build, the belief you'll strengthen, the resilience you'll develop, the confidence that will rise from the inside out because you will have lived your transformation, not just thought about it. But you must understand something important. A 2026 mindset isn't built by thinking about the future. It's built by acting in the present. Every time you choose consistency, you're casting a vote for the future version of yourself. Every time you choose belief over doubt, you're building the foundation of that future. You don't wait for the future to arrive. You build it with every small decision today. When you combine consistency with belief, you start moving differently. You carry yourself differently. People around you feel it. They notice the change before you even see it fully. You make decisions faster. You let go of excuses easier. You stop negotiating with your goals and you start rising to meet them. You stop being controlled by your environment and you start creating one that supports your growth. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to become a different person overnight. You don't have to force yourself into a new identity. You build it step by step, just like everything else in this journey. The more consistent you become, the more belief grows. The more belief grows, the more consistent you become. It creates a loop, a powerful, unstoppable cycle that pushes you forward no matter what challenges appear. By the time you reach 2026, you won't just be achieving massive success because the world handed it to you. You'll achieve it because you trained yourself for it. You'll achieve it because you built the mindset capable of sustaining it. You'll achieve it because the person you've become will make success the natural outcome, not the lucky exception. And that is the ultimate transformation. Because in the end, success isn't something you chase. It's something you grow into.